Hi there and welcome to the Bristol Show 2025. I am Brad from Audio T and I am joined by Dennis from Atacama.
Hello Brad, nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, and this isn't what you're selling as such.
No, it's not the world's biggest rack, is it?
No, so
Unfortunately,
Atacama, hi-fi furniture. This is your lovely little display. I mean, it does look like something out of Star Wars the way you set it
yeah.
up.
Well, the trouble with our furniture is a lot of the technology is hidden away. So I've got this little display unit that I can kind of show the technologies to. So
Brilliant. So before we jump into that,
I can do that.
Why don't you tell the audience at home who Atacama are and what you do?
Well, Atacama is a family business. It's been running since the late 60s by our current managing director's father, who was originally an engineer for Hawker Siddeley and Rolls-Royce.
Right.
So, although Atacama is our trading name, and one of our trading names, the actual company name Samble Engineering Limited. So we tend to come at furniture as an engineer would, rather than a carpenter would.
Yeah, of course.
So the company was started in the 60s. We made parts of Rolls-Royce Aero, and then in the late 80s, we started making speaker stands as a side shoot.
Yep.
That got more and more popular. It got to the point where making parts of Rolls-Royce was becoming unprofitable, so it wasn't worth doing.
Yep.
And then we pretty much now specialise in speaker stands and hi-fi racks. And we've been doing that ever since around sort of, again, late 80s.
Yeah, and we were just chatting off screen that you've done every show basically.
Yeah, we did the very first show in the late 80s. At the time we had one main product which was called an SE24 speaker stand.
Yeah.
And that speaker stand actually is the reason why we're called Atacama. So let me ask you, Brad.
Yes.
Do you know why we're called Atacama?
I do not.
So we're not made in Peru.
Oh, okay. Please divulge.
Well, the SE24 was the first mainstream speaker stand that you could fill with sand.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Sand comes from a desert.
Yeah. And
the driest desert in the world is the
Sahara.
No. It's the Atacama Desert. So hence the reason we called Atacama, because Carl, our then managing director, who was the son of the founder, his wife was a geography teacher, and so they went through all the deserts. Mojave didn't roll off the tongue very well.
No.
And so we stuck with Atacama, being A as well. You're always going to be at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And of course, since then, we've obviously moved on from filling our speaker stands with sand.
Yes.
So we now use Atabites, which is a better filler.
Which I love the word Atabites, because that's the sort of they look. I don't even know how you
It's almost a generic mass load. You know, like a vacuum cleaner is called a Hoover.
Yeah.
When people refer to mass loading now, they almost call it Atabites, even if it's not Atabites.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've kind of been there first. We sell a lot of it, and I get a lot of questions about Atabites as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can certainly help you with some answers about that later on in the conversation.
But obviously, there's going to be. The thing that I find really funny about hi-fi is for all the people that are obsessed with facts and figures and specifications, there's still so many naysayers when it comes to things like speaker cables and power conditioning and hi-fi furniture.
Yeah.
They don't seem to grasp the benefits of what it is it actually achieves.
The trouble with furniture is it's very hard to do a demonstration in a shop.
Yeah.
If you ask a retailer how many times that he's done, let's say I speak to somebody who's been in the industry 20 years.
Yeah.
How many times do you think that sales manager or salesman in that time has done a like-for-like comparison of equipment where the only difference is the rack?
Probably 3-4 times, maybe.
You just don't do it. You don't.
No.
And I understand that. You know,
Yeah.
the customers obviously have only got limited amount of time, and you guys don't have two of everything in every shop. So how can you do a back-to-back demonstration? So with furniture, you do rely a lot on what the reviewers are, and of course what people say online and that kind of thing. What we do at the factory, obviously, because it's what we do, we have actually got our own room that we use for doing all our development. It's got soundproofing in there, sound on the stage.
Yeah, of course.
We've got measuring equipment.
Yeah.
In actual fact, at a previous show here, I think it was 3 years ago, I actually got called out on the furniture.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were launching our cables, our power cords, and I was in one of the rooms here doing the power cord demonstration, and there was a gentleman sitting in the group of customers in front of us, listening to the cables. And I was going through the cables, starting at the bottom, then the middle, and the lot. And basically, I had one of our Evoke racks and another rack next to it, a small one, 3 levels, and it had the power strip across the top.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason the power strip was on the top was because I was demonstrating power cords.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to keep bending over, swapping the cord over. So
absolutely.
it was me being lazy. I put this power strip on top of this second rack.
Yeah.
And the only cable I changed was the one that went from the wall to the power strip.
Got you.
All right, that was the only one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
as I went through the range,
Yeah.
whatever that cable was doing, it was showing to the others.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So you got the idea. First demonstration. 16 people in front of me, and there was this one guy with his arms crossed staring at me, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go. So I do the
Yeah,
cable
yeah.
demonstration. Everyone's nodding, saying, yeah, that's great. They can hear the differences up when you go through the cables. And he says, out of nowhere, he says, and I said, any questions? Puts his hand up, he says, racks don't make a difference.
So you got a heckler
I got a heckler
at the Bristol Hi-Fi Show.
at the very first demonstration of cables
Yeah,
that I was at.
brilliant.
And I looked at him, and everyone sort of sat up, and I went, they do make a difference. He said, no, they don't. I says, yes, they do. He said, no, they don't. I says, they do. They will make your hi-fi sound worse. And everyone took a breath in, because you
Yeah.
don't expect the guy from Atacama to say racks will make your hi-fi sound worse.
Yeah, right.
I said, if you've got a bad rack, it will make your hi-fi sound worse. And I said, I'm going to demonstrate this to you. So what I said to him was, and don't forget, this wasn't planned. This guy called me out. I was
Yeah.
doing cable demonstrations.
It wasn't a plant.
No. I took the power strip
Yeah.
off the rack and put it on the floor. Where do most people put their power strips?
Yeah, just on the floor.
On
yeah.
the floor. So
yeah.
I'm not going to touch the music. I'm not going to touch the rack that's got all the hi-fi on. All we're going to do is put the power strip on the floor. I'm going to play 30 seconds of music. I think it was an old Buddy Holly
Yeah.
track. It wasn't even a modern track.
No.
Right? I'm making it hard for myself.
Yeah.
Because there's no moving parts in a power strip.
No.
So I put the power strip on the floor. We play 30 seconds of that. We then put the power strip on the rack. Played the same music at the same volume. 30 seconds again, and everyone went, wow,
Yeah.
I can hear the difference. Can I just say, for the rest of that show,
Yeah.
I did the cable demonstration.
And the rack demonstration.
Because
So,
I realised no one had done it.
actually, that heckler had...
It helped me.
He'd helped.
Yeah.
So,
now, if
fair
we'd
enough.
not done the engineering,
Yeah.
I knew it was going to work.
Yeah.
But if we'd not done the engineering, we would have got found out
Yeah.
there
of
and
course.
then.
Of course, yeah.
And it was, it's something that's going to stay with me for a long time. So that guy actually helped me out.
Yeah.
But I know we do the engineering, and we get into what hi-fi, get into Hi-Fi Choice, all the other magazines out there. They review the furniture, but ultimately, we've got to know that it works well, because when it's in
Yeah.
your house and it's in the customer's house, it's going to make a difference. This hi-fi system. So yeah, and hence the reason we do so well with the magazines. I can assure you, it's not because we spend a lot on advertising, because we don't. Sorry, guys.
So why don't you talk us through a little bit of what we're looking at
Okay,
here?
so what I've got here, the biggest difference that made to our furniture was when we went from the old metal and glass furniture to wood.
Yeah.
This happened around 15 years ago. Up until then, we had a rack called an Equinox, which was a metal and glass furniture, and there was nothing wrong with it. It was a product of his day. And then what happened? We became a distributor for a well-known high-end cable company. I don't want to name names because obviously that wouldn't be fair.
Yeah.
But it was a very high-end cable company. And when they were at the show, they wouldn't use our racks. So it was a bit like getting married and finding your wife didn't actually love you. So we're there with these award-winning Equinox racks. They're doing their cable demonstrations, but they wouldn't use our racks. And she said, well, what's the problem? Why won't you use our racks? And they said, well, I'll tell you what, after the show, bring one of your racks down to where we do our testing.
Yeah.
And you can have a listen. Now, as I said, furniture companies didn't test their furniture like a cable company will. We don't have, we simply, furniture companies simply don't generally need, at the time, didn't think they needed to measure mechanical resonances, frequencies and that kind of things. So, and let's just say this high-end cable company, their cables were thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
So if you're comparing a cable that's £7,000 against one that's £15,000,
Yeah.
there's not a lot wrong with a £7,000 cable. You know, we're not talking a seriously faulty cable here. So their equipment was really, really, really sensitive. So you can hear the differences.
Course, yeah.
You go and put a metal and glass rack in there that's rattling and shaking and
gonna make a
resonating.
difference,
Oh, it's horrible, horrible, horrible. So they showed us what the problem was, and we thought, well, hold on a minute. This is what we should be doing. So we working with that cable company, we decided that we'd copy over what they do, and then we started incorporating that into the way we developed our furniture. And since then, that's how we do it. That's how we develop our furniture. So we make sure it's properly tested first.
Yeah.
The main difference between Atacama and our competitors, as far as I'm aware, is we're the only company that actually do that make furniture. And that's because of our engineering background. We're engineers that happen to be carpenters, not carpenters trying to be engineers.
Yeah, of course.
And if we were making wardrobes. We couldn't make a wardrobe any better than anybody else. But because we're hi-fi enthusiasts and that's what we do, and we understand
down. You might.
Yeah. Well, do you know, at the show we bought our first coffee table.
Well, there you go.
There you go. So, but it holds lots of records. So, you know, please have a
I've
look on
seen
the
that out there actually.
Yeah,
That looks
yeah. Someone's already bought it. So that's the prototype gone. We're gonna have to make some more now, aren't we?
What a shame. What a shame.
So essentially, that's the basic background of Atacama. About 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we bought the Apollo brand name because they used to be our biggest competitor. They were twice as big as us when I started with the company.
Yep.
And then we bought them out, so we own the Apollo brand name. And then last year we took over Hi-Fi Racks.
Yes,
So again, we're an oak brand. At the moment, that brand name has been temporarily retired. Although some of the designs are quite nice, we've adapted them, and we're selling them under the Apollo brand name. So Atacama's predominantly oak furniture.
Yeah.
Atacama's predominantly bamboo furniture, and Apollo's predominantly oak furniture.
Got you.
It's a little bit more lifestyle as well, which brings us down to what your original question was. What's this I've got here? So most of the technologies are hidden away in the furniture. So what I've got here is a little cutout so you can see what's going on.
Yeah.
This is an example of what happens with our Evoke rack. So the Evoke series has been out since 2014. There's been 3 different versions. What I'll do, because obviously there's only so much time, I'm just going to go through what the latest version does, which is called the Evoke 6040 SE2. So most racks work on the principle of isolation. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and sometimes actually have an isolation platform on top of an isolation shelf with legs that isolate.
Yes.
Everyone agree? Did the audience agree? Yes. Does the cameraman agree? Yes. Fantastic. Right. Now, the only problem with that is if you isolate something,
Yeah.
you keep all the energy in
Yes.
because it's isolated.
Yes.
Yeah. So kind of the problem is actually in the name of what you're doing. So if you isolate something, you've got an piece of electronics, energy going in, the insides are resonating and shaking and rattling. It's isolated, so it stays in there.
Yeah.
So hopefully, the platform that you've got it on will dampen it over time, but it's not ideal.
Yeah.
All right. So what we did with Evokes back in 2014, we thought, well, hold on, what if we get that energy out of the rack?
Right.
Surely that's better than just isolating it.
Because it needs to go somewhere because energy has to be transferred.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right, you've got it. So we looked at all the different woods, and at the time, Hi-Fi Racks were making the podium rack. That was winning all the awards because it was oak. We looked at oak, but the engineering side of it said, well, oak's great, but no 2 oak trees are the same.
No.
And as an engineer, you need a material that's consistent.
Yep.
All right. So if you some steel was soft and some steel was hard,
Yeah.
you wouldn't know how to make your car. You'd want it the same.
Yeah.
So we looked around at all the different woods. MDFs and such like they're adequate, but they got low perceived value and don't look particularly nice. And then there's also the ecological side of it as well. We don't want to be cutting down rainforests.
No.
That wouldn't be good.
That'd be a bit unfair.
A bit unfair in the environment. So
Yeah.
we eventually settled on bamboo, and the reason we use bamboo is it's very ecologically friendly.
Yep.
A bamboo,
Fast growing.
Yeah, it's fast growing. A 70-year-old oak tree gets the same size as a 7-year-old bamboo plant.
Right.
And of course, you cut a bamboo plant, it's grass.
Yeah.
It just carries on growing. So it's it doesn't need fertilizers, doesn't need any kind of special looking after. It's bamboo friendly. Panda friendly. Sorry.
Panda friendly,
Panda
good.
friendly, sorry. Because they don't eat trees this big.
No.
So that's what it is. And because it's a process wood, we can specify the density that we want.
Yeah.
So the bamboo's made to us by our own specification. All our bamboo is sourced from a single point of production.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come from China. We don't get our bamboo from China.
Right.
And all the money goes to the local community as well. So we're supporting local people that are producing our bamboo.
Yeah,
There's
of
no
course.
middlemen
Yeah.
involved with our bamboo. So we decided on bamboo. Because of the camera distance, it's a bit hard to see here, but basically the way the bamboo's made up of, it's made up of blocks. Whether you can see that, might not be able to do that. It's made up of blocks, and you've got the pores inside the bamboo which act as shock absorbers. So it's a really great material to make hi-fi furniture
Yeah,
from.
of course.
It does have its downsides.
Yep.
Very hard to machine. The actual hardness rating for bamboo is harder than oak. There's a Janka rating for bamboo. If you want to look it up, if you go to the Janka ratings for bamboo, carbonised bamboo. You'll find its hardness rating is harder than Northern European oak. Ours is processed slightly differently. It's a little bit harder than that, but if you make it too hard, it'll resonate.
Right.
So we've got to get the properties right. Okay. So that's the bamboo about it. So we've figured the material out. We now need to get it out of the leg. So if you imagine that's the corner of your rack. On an SE2, there's also some cutouts on the underneath of the wood. That's all designed that whatever equipment is on top of the rack transfers to the top cap here. Okay. The top cap, inside the top cap, there's a little rubber seal, and that is designed to dampen the top cap. The energy then hits the top cap, travels down the stud to the bottom cap. Inside the bottom cap is another one of these rubber seals which dampens the outer collar to the spike, and then the spike sits in the cap of the shelf beneath all the way to the floor. So if you think of each leg as like a lightning conductor for energy, it bounce, 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 and around down the door and away to the floor. In fact,
we've got.
Yes, that's the old idea. What we actually found was the SE2 was so efficient that these studs that run down the middle of the leg were resonating. They're acting like a guitar string.
Right.
And different leg lengths were resonating at different frequencies.
Got you.
So what we do is we put this tuning weight inside the leg. And it's made of brass and it's zinc coated, and that acts rather like a finger on a guitar string.
Yeah, of course.
So depending on the length of the leg, you can put the tuning weight on there. So we do tell you where to put the weight. All right.
It's far more intelligent and clever than I actually anticipated.
Well,
so
this is all hidden away. You don't see it.
well, exactly.
So
I just thought
I'll show you.
I'll be honest with you. I just assumed they were empty tubes that most people fill with atabites.
Well, you don't fill it with atabites because air is a really good insulator.
Yes, of course.
So
hence why you have gaps in houses and
yeah. It's a great insulator. So what we want to do is we want the energy to travel down that stud.
Yep.
Yeah. Down to the bottom cap. In actual fact, what we found was the original spikes were too sharp. They were acting as a pinch point for that energy.
Right.
So the SE2 spike, as you can see there, it's rounded off, so you've got a bigger surface area. Yeah. And it's also made of brass to slow the energy down because it's a denser material. So every single component inside that leg,
very clever stuff.
every single part of that leg is all about handling mechanical resonance. And of course, they all stack on top of each other like that. Okay. And also means that if the customer at a later date wants to change his leg length at a later date, it gets a new bit of kit.
Yeah.
You can just replace the stud and the black outer tube.
Yeah.
Reuse all the other components, and then you can raise it or lower it or split it into two. It's very adaptable.
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone over it rather briefly there, but just to give you an idea of the level of engineering that goes into an Atacama Apollo.
I think that was quite in-depth amount of information there, because I've learned something.
There we go.
Which is just great, you know. Yeah. I've got a degree in audio engineering, and I've learned something. So it's hopefully the people at home have learned some stuff too.
And perhaps in the future I could perhaps go about speaker stands and perhaps the Apollo range as well.
Well, there's always next year.
Yeah, there is. So we've got to have something to look forward to.
Exactly. We can't talk about it all now.
No. I've got to keep some secrets down my sleeve.
Absolutely.
But as always, we are a family business. If anyone out there has got any questions, we're more than happy to answer any. Just drop an email to Atacama Audio, and we'll do our best to help.
There you go. There you have it. So, check out the range, check it out online. And Dennis, thank you so much for joining me.
That's it, Brad. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks very much, guys.
Take care.
Bye now.